On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt returns to the live stage to cover some Rogue Squadron and Ahsoka Season 2 updates. He'll then reveal the 10 characters with the most screen time in Star Wars film history. Punch it, Chewie. Now. What is going on, everybody? It's time for a little live Star Wars Time Show action. I know we don't get it all the time these days, but here I am, and I'm ready to rock. There will be no tears tonight. Let's go, Kramer. Scounger in there getting the first on you, bro. I love that. Get some. Yeah, how about those Hawks? Football is over. Kramer's going to go into his hole. But, we'll try to pick up the slack. The SWTSers, Kramer calls it the Time Show. That's probably, we should just rebrand to The Time Show. That way there's always time for the Time Show. And then the Time Show can be Fallout time, Stranger Things time, Mando and Grogu time show. All right. What's going on here? Who we got? Anakwanuva 552. What's going on? Dan the Man. Welcome to the party. What's going on here? My screens are a little jacked up here. Anakwanuvu. I don't know. I guess I remember you, but I'd love to have you back. I mean, welcome back to the party here. Same with Dan the Man. Hey there, Carly Large. Time show. Let's go. Dan the Man says so. All right, so let's get started here. No screwing around today. We got all sorts of stuff to talk about. We've got some Star Wars leaks, rumors. We've got some news on that Rogue Squadron movie that was announced, seems like decades ago. And then we'll have a little fun breaking down an old post from Screenwriter that listed the 10 Star Wars characters with the most screen time. I bet you guys can't guess who is number one. Can you? Can you guess? All right. Let's go. I like it. We got a little bit of a crowd in here right now. Thank you. Anhakwanevu. I know I'm saying that like a dipshit, so please apologize there. I'm trying to look at 10 different things, running the board by myself, so it's good here, and we appreciate that sub, my man. So, like I said, we got some fun stuff to talk about today. We're always kick off with Ask Us Anything, or today, Ask Me Anything. So we got a few questions from the fans. If you want to get involved in the Ask Us, Ask Me Anything for the SWTS, just follow us on our socials. We post the prompt up on Discord, YouTube even. What else we got? Where else we posted? Instagram, maybe sometimes on Twitter. You never know. All right. No more co-hosts. Yeah, Dan, Nick, what's happened with young Nick is we try to do 4 shows a month now, and then every other week it'll be live with just me, and then the next week it'll be pre-record with my co-host young Nick. So sometimes I got to come in and do multiple lives. It all just depends on the schedule, but I have good news. According to young Nick, he's going to try, once the Maul series comes out in April, he's going to try and move his schedule so we can do live Maul breakdowns every Wednesday night, 5 weeks straight, to cover the first season of Maul Shadow Lord. So hopefully that works out. Hey, if you want to meet me, you never know where I'm going to be. Might be in NYC come end of March, and then after that, who knows, might just stay in my basement. But it's good to see here, good to see some new people. Hey there, Mavis Montez R60. Hello, said hi, hello. When it just says said hi, is that a bot? No, I don't think it is a bot. I don't know why that does that. All right, Dan the Man, you are sick. We are all sick. Have a great time. It's good to see the live stream chat popping off. If you ever want to get involved in the chat, Even when we do pre-records, we still do instant premiere, so there is a live chat. So typically Wednesday, 6 p. East, as close as we can get. YouTube.com/Star Wars Time Show. All right, let's go ahead and get into that Ask Me Anything to see what people wanted to know this week. I got a good mix of questions. Got a long note from a fan that I might read. They said, read this to your fans. I said, why not? We aim to please over here at the SWTS. And again, if you're new here and you like what you're seeing here, or even if you don't, just drop a subscribe. It's not going to hurt you. If you really dig what you're seeing and you feel bad for me because I'm stuck in my cold basement, you can consider becoming a channel member for as low as $1.99. Again, down below in the description, hit that join button. All right, my friends, let's see what the fans wanted to know this week. You never know. Sometimes they get a little cheeky. Sometimes they get a little personal. Sometimes they're just screwing around. So let's see what they've got over in Ask Me Anything. All right, here we go. First question here coming from NASCAR Talk with Jack Sabo. And Jack's saying here, sports question. Have y'all ever watched any motorsports, whether that be NASCAR, F1, or anything else? Well, NASCAR Talk, let me tell you something here. All right, thanks for subscribing there, Mr. Vu. We appreciate you. We speak your name. We speak your name. Anyways, have I ever watched motorsports? Well, in fact, I've been to a NASCAR race. I've actually been to 2 races. I've been to when they used to race trucks. I don't know if they do that anymore. You know how trucks were usually on Friday, and then the actual cars were on Sunday. But I've been to both at the Texas Motor Speedway down there in like the DFW area. And I will say, being at a NASCAR race live is pretty freaking intense. It's going to make you deaf if you don't show up with some form of hearing protection. But it is a party. I mean, I saw people walking in with cases of beer, uncovered, coolers, it didn't matter, sitting them right there in the bleachers. So it was a good time. Super loud. You can feel the experience, though. You know, sometimes at a big football game or something, if the crowd gets real loud, you might feel it in your soul, in your body, in your muscle fibers. But when you're at a NASCAR race, every time those guys zip around the track, man, you can just feel those engines humming through your body. So it's not a sport I watch on the regular, but if I could catch one live, I definitely wouldn't say no, and I would love to drive a car upwards of 200 miles an hour. I don't care if it's in a circle or not. That's just got to be a good time. So the closest I get to racing is go-karting, so I guess I'm just going to have to live that way for a while now. I don't see myself starting a NASCAR career anytime soon. Looks like we got Dan the Man going out, checking out some motorsports. Saw my first F1 show. I'd imagine NASCAR is the same type of vibe. I think F1, you know, it's the tracks are a little more creative. I know we have a circuit over here in the States now in Vegas, and they literally just drive through the streets. So that's got to be pretty wild. But yeah, I would love to drive these fast cars. But in terms of becoming a diehard NASCAR fan, probably not going to happen. Sundays are reserved for football, even though it's over. All right, so thanks for the question. Next question here coming from Rippick Tan. Rippick Tan saying, how you doing? Any new toys? Well, if you're new around here, I will let you know. I do still collect toys as a grown man or an old guy that stares at clouds, screams at clouds, whatever you say it. And I don't collect as actively as I used to. Used to be huge into Funko Pops. Made a lot of money selling my early collection there. Then I moved into Star Wars Black Series. I kind of stopped doing that a few years ago. So my primary collecting these days are Hot Toys, which if you're not familiar, go look them up. They are amazing looking, but they're super expensive. So I don't recommend anyone getting addicted to collecting Hot Toys, because we're talking these days $280 to $350 for a freaking figure. They look amazing. I mean, it's like you shrink the characters down and you get to keep them right in a shelf. So I do love staring at them. But I'll tell you what, when I look at my collectible cases, my Deltolfs, my glass cases, and I think about all the money tied up in there, I'm like, well, shit, I probably could have bought my own NASCAR. But instead, I'm buying expensive-looking Star Wars, Marvel, DC Barbie dolls. So if you young kids, any one of you listening out there, try not to ever become a collector. It's super fun sometimes. It can make you feel great when you get a new toy, you find one in the wild, but man, is it an expensive hobby. If you're in our Discord, which is open, I think I posted a shot of my collection, so you all can go check that out. It's teeny weeny, but if you zoom in, you'll start to get the scope of my money dump on Hot Toys. If I remember, I'll just read Ripik's thing right now. This was kind of cool. I mean, Ripik was an early fan of the show. He's a toy photographer out there, but out of nowhere just dropped me a long DM in Instagram. So you know what? We always like to cater to our fans, make them feel special. So let me go ahead and read this. First off, saying, sorry, I haven't been a good SWTS fan lately. You know what, Ripik? Shame on you. No, I'm just kidding, man. It's all good. I don't blame you. We don't blame you. I mean, we barely have any longtime fans, so it's always good to get some people in here, and especially some new faces I'm seeing in the live stream chat. So please just limit your penance to 10 lashings with a cattail. But here we go. Nothing to sew you with the show, just haven't been as active here recently. If you guys are talking about the Mando Super Bowl ad, feel free to read this to your listeners. All right, so here we go. In case you missed it, there was a Mando and Grogu ad. I wouldn't even call it a trailer at the Super Bowl. So here's what Ripik had to say about it. I personally loved it, and that's because it reminded me of my own introduction to Star Wars in 1995. Was a Super Bowl ad when George was gearing up to release the special editions. There was a commercial which was Darth Vader in the carbon freezing chamber on Bespin. It terrified me. I was 5 and had never seen or heard of Darth Vader, and I immediately was hooked. But it was a commercial, and Vader was trying to get the Energizer Bunny, who was just out of reach on the other side of the circular platform. But that's what pulled me in. So to see the recent ad with Mando and Grogu, it reminded me of how I was introduced. Love it. I see a lot of people hating on it, but seriously, be upset about the real-life tragedies and outrageous events happening all around us today. Amen, Ripik Tan. That is right. It is funny what people choose to get incensed about these days. You know, all sorts of talk around the Super Bowl and the halftime, and it's like, really? That's what we're going to waste our time on these days? Worrying about Super Bowl performances, this, that, and the other thing, getting mad at commercials, getting mad at Mando and Grogu because it really wasn't a trailer. It didn't show any more plot. So, Ripik, I'll tell you this. Like, I saw the spot, and for the first maybe 20 seconds, I tuned out of it because I heard that, a commercial voiceover guy kind of sounded like Sam Elliott, and I was just like, what is this? Like a car commercial, a snowmobile commercial? And then obviously it zooms in and you can kind of see Grogu and Din riding in a little wagon that is hitched to tauntauns. And then at the end you get the old, Grogu reaching out at the tauntaun. So listen, it didn't upset me. I wouldn't say it excited me as much as it did you. But I loved hearing your story. I didn't know I was that much older than you. I'm definitely a geezer these days. I was born in '80, so the first time you came around Star Wars, I was already 15 years old and probably a ne'er-do-well in high school, trying to do what most young boys want to do in high school, and that is chase girls and maybe if I'm lucky enough, they'll talk to me, let me kiss them, all that fun stuff that you have to go through in middle school and high school. So love the story, Ripik. Glad you're back. Always love your toy photography, and thanks for the note. I do appreciate it. All right, next question here. Yeah, Kramer dug the Super Bowl halftime show too. Yeah, listen, I mean, Bad Bunny, all the respect in the world, huge artist around the globe. Latin music typically isn't my favorite. I feel like the beat is kind of the same in every song, but I'm sure you could make arguments for every genre of music like that. I mean, I've slowly been trying to learn the guitar, and when you start getting into it, you learn most songs are based on 3 or 4 chords. So it is what it is. I'm glad he got to do what he did and honored the culture and all that fun stuff. All right, next question here. League of Extraordinary Sixers. What is your favorite Winter Olympic sport to watch? Well, I'm glad you asked because I've been watching a lot. I love the Winter Olympics. I think it's 10 times greater than the Summer Olympics. I'm a winter sports type of guy. I love to ski, sled. Hell, I've even enjoyed shoveling snow in my old age. So you never know. Yeah, I mean, hockey's another great winter type of sport. But for me, I love watching the skiing events, be it the downhill, the alpine, the slalom, super G, slope style, the freestyle, the moguls, all that type of stuff. And you know, I think it's because I'm a skier myself, and when I'm on the hills, I'm like, yeah, I'm not too bad. I can parallel, I can carve. And then I watch these people and the shit they can do, and it's absolutely insane. Downhillers doing 80 to 90 miles an hour. I get excited when I hit 40, and I'm like, holy shit! If I fall over, I'm definitely going to break something. So, respect to Lindsey Vonn. I hate to see what happened to her. I mean, she's kind of in my age range. She's 41, trying to make a comeback, and probably would have placed if she didn't have that terrible wreck, and already broke another leg. So it's a rough sport. So I'm definitely going with skiing there, league. All right, next question in our Ask Us Anything segment here. We're coming from EKU Rory. Favorite Star Wars romance in honor of Valentine's Day? I mean, it's kind of hard not to go Luke and Leia. No, I'm just kidding. Han and Leia. I mean, they're the ones. They are the first Star Wars romance, really, unless you consider, you know, C-3PO and R2-D2 and whatever sort of odd bond, kind of masochistic relationship those two share. But I mean, I hate to take the easy out. It's got to be Han and Leia. They're just, the whole courtship was so antagonistic. You know, Han was a little creepy. Some would even say possibly rapey. You know what I mean? But just, you know, I go back to Return of the Jedi when Han gets all pissed at Leia for talking to Luke, and he's like, fine, I know I lost. You can have him. Go with the flyboy. Go with the guy with magic powers. And she's like, no, just chill out. I just, you know, hold me. And then at the end, when Leia and Han, they have their victory at the Battle of Endor, they're sitting there, they're looking up. And Han's like, oh shit, Luke probably made it out of there, didn't he? And Leia's like, oh yeah, I know, I can see it. And, you know, she's tapping into her force for really the first time. And Han's like, oh, you know, I get it. When he gets back, I'll stay out of your way. And she's like, no, dummy, he's my brother. I love you. And she gives him a big kiss. And then you see that shit-eating grin on his face. And then how can any of us forget about their moment, you know, I love you, I know, one of the most iconic quotes in Star Wars in Empire Strikes Back. So, yeah, as lame as it is, I'm pretty sure I got to go Han and Leia for Star Wars romance. I mean, the other big one, Padme and Anakin, I love them. They're beautiful people. But, man, their little romance that kicks off in Attack of the Clones is still cringy to this day. I mean, it's like douche chill central, especially when they're in that grass field with those big fat ass Naboo type of cows surfing on them, rolling around like, I wish I could wish my feelings, all that stupid shit. So yeah, Han and Leia all the way, best Star Wars romance. All right, here's my man Kramer. You know, he's always good for a question, and it's always going to involve football. It doesn't matter what time of year, he's going to be asking football questions. So let's see what he has to say. Thoughts on the Super Bowl and the halftime show? Well, I just gave you my thoughts on the halftime show. So the Super Bowl itself, I thought was terrible. It was one of the most boring Super Bowls in recent memory. I mean, I know it ended up kind of being a blowout, but I mean, it was still just field goals to nothing by halftime. There was a point in time I figured the Seahawks kicker was going to win the MVP, and it ended up going to Walker. But listen, anytime the Patriots look stupid, look completely outclassed and outmatched, I'm all for it. So I'll take it. Yeah, like Kramer's saying, I mean, the Seahawks defense was nasty. I kind of wish I had Mike McDonald over at the Steelers now that Tomlin's out, but we got the other Mike. We got old Mike. We'll see what he can do. But, you know, go Hawks. It was a fun show. Happy for Sam Darnold. You got to love that type of comeback story. I mean, this motherfucker was left for dead with the Jets. And remember when he was talking about seeing ghosts on Monday Night Football? This guy was about ready to wash out of the league, went around the 5 different teams, was a winner in Minnesota last year. They still didn't want him, kicked him to the curb. Seattle picks him up, and this dude freaking wins the Super Bowl. So that aspect, the stories behind the Super Bowl were more interesting than the game itself. All right, and the last question in Ask Me Anything this week, coming from our boy Baron's Black Series and his question is why? I don't know. Is this like a Drax thing? Like who, what, why, when, where? Why what? Why are we on the planet? Why are we all still alive? Why do humans exist? Why are there no aliens yet? I don't know, Bennett. You got to be a little more clear. Is it because I'm thinking of pausing? Ask us anything? Well, if that is it, well, it's because we typically don't get a lot of responses, and it just adds more time to my prep. So when people aren't kind of participating because of algorithm nonsense blocking us, then it is what it is. And then Spencer himself is asking, are you excited for Hail Mary Project coming out? Yes, anytime there's a sci-fi movie coming out, something that deals with, near future humanity survival and what they need to do to potentially explore space so we can keep going because we've lit this planet on fire, I'm all for it. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a big-time Gosling fan, so I kind of like Tom Cruise. If he's putting out a movie, I'm going to go check it out. And no, I'm not going to read the damn book, all right? Thank you. Well, that's it for Ask Us Anything this week. Like I said, if you want to get involved, the best way to do that is to just follow us on our socials. Do what you got to do. Look for the prompts. We'll throw it up on Instagram, Discord, YouTube, and our community, whatever the hell they want to call it. You know what to do. You know what to do. All right, so let's switch gears, get the old browser back up here. We'll hide that. I really wish my buttons would work in the vertical feed, which I don't think there's many people watching, but my bad. There was an update at this point like 2 or 3 months ago where the Stream Deck no longer wants to jive with OBS and its vertical crap. I give up. You know what I mean? I give up. All right, so let's start digging through some of these topics we got here. Like I said, we got 2 Star Wars newsy topics to get to, and then we'll kind of close out some Star Wars action with a fun segment, and we'll go over the top 10 characters that have the most screen time in Star Wars film history. If you're in the live stream chat, start making your guesses. Which 10 characters do you think have the most screen time in Star Wars movie history? All right? You hear me? I'm saying movies. I'm not talking about the animated stuff, because if we included Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch, then we might see Rex in there. Maybe he already is. Ahsoka might be in there, but is she in movies? So there, you got to think about it that way. All right, Kramer's guessing Vader #1. I don't know. He might be on to something, Kramer. What are you doing? Spoiling this shit, bro? I'm just kidding. I asked for it, right? Okay. So first thing I want to get into, we got another Ahsoka Season 2 leak. If you want to cover your eyes and ears for this one, I'd say maybe. I don't really think this is a big one. It's just a set pick that kind of gives you an idea of one of the locations that we will be seeing in Ahsoka Season 2. And I know we've talked about this before in some other Ahsoka Season 2 leaks we've presented on the show. But we got another look at Dathomir. That's right. Morai the Messenger over on Twitter sharing an image of a set pick from the film, or from the TV series. Again, this is Ahsoka Season 2. And what you see here, if you're on the live stream, is a shot of the Dathomir set. And from what I read in the post, that background you see, like if you look past, if you've ever played, well, hell, if you've just watched the Clone Wars or Tales of the Empire, anything that has featured Dathomir before, this should resonate with you. The visual should make sense. If you played Jedi Survivor or Fallen Jedi, whatever the hell the first Cal Kestis game is, it'll definitely look familiar to you. So what we're seeing here again is a set pick from Ahsoka Season 2 from the Dathomir set, and it is a set. I don't believe this is all volume. In fact, like I said, what I was teasing, That background you're seeing, if you're on the live stream here, that's a matte painting. So it seems Filoni and team are going old school. They're not completely relying on the volume these days to bring these alien planets to life. You know, you can see you got practical vines and thorns everywhere. You got that kind of orange glow that we know Dathomir has down on the surface. But the background, if we are to believe this leaker, is a matte painting, which, you know, that was a fundamental VFX back in OG Star Wars. I mean, pretty much any large background you see in 4, 5, and 6 is probably a matte painting. You know, when Han Solo and Lando are talking in Return of the Jedi, right when Lando's about to take the Falcon, that's just a big-ass painting. You know, when they pull out from the opening scene and you see all those Imperials lined up waiting for Vader, again, that's just a matte painting. I mean, hell, there was a matte painting when Obi-Wan was trying to shut down the tractor beam on the Death Star. So it's cool to know that they're starting to deploy some of these old school VFX techniques in these shows, which, let's be real, early on just kind of went all in on the volume, especially The Mandalorian. This doesn't mean Ahsoka Season 2 has completely avoided the volume, but it does sound like they are going a bit more old school. Yeah, so Michael here is asking, what's the difference between volume and set? So, Michael, the volume, think of it as like a big dome set. So, you know, think like the Sphere almost, something like that, sans seats for people to sit in. And what they can do using, I don't know if it's Unreal 4, Unreal 5, is they can essentially pull up dynamic environments. And the way that the camera interacts with the volume LEDs, it makes it seem like they're in an actual alien world or wherever you want to be. It's actually really cool technology. What we're getting here on this set, this is more than likely a traditional set in a warehouse somewhere where they dress it up, build part of the set. But in the background, the far off background, instead of using LEDs and volume tech, it's just one big ass painting. So, pretty cool here. Kramer, listen to what League's saying in the live stream. Just go check out some of the BTS on, I believe, Mando's Season 1 to get your scoop on the volume. But anyways, you know, I don't think it should surprise anyone that we're going to be spending some time on Dathomir. The question comes is, are we only going to see Thrawn and the Night Sisters returned on Dathomir? Or will the likes of Ezra, Hera, and the New Republic get mixed up on Dathomir? You know, we have to figure that now that Thrawn returned at the end of Ahsoka Season 1, the New Republic's got to be on high alert. Ezra's with them, so he can definitely give them some intel. It's not like the Chimera stealthed its way back, so they're going to know it's hovering over Dathomir, and, you know, maybe they'll go explore it. Maybe there will be a ground battle. You know, we still don't really know what are in all those tombs that Thrawn and the Great Mothers brought with them. You know, we're all guessing it's other Night Sisters in stasis, but are they warriors? Are they full-on zombie Night Sisters? Are they going to be a part of Thrawn's army? Who knows? But you can bet your ass the fans are going to get to see live-action Dathomir for the first time in Ahsoka Season 2. And I do have a feeling the good guys, at least Ezra, maybe some rando New Republics, hell, maybe they'll even let Zeb play in Ahsoka Season 2. I still don't understand why Zeb was completely removed from Ahsoka Season 1 when all the other Star Wars Rebels characters were essentially involved. But yeah, I think we're gonna have some battles going down on Dathomir, and hopefully it's old school Star Wars, or even like the Phantom Menace, where we got a ground battle and a space battle. Because I'm almost positive Dave Filoni's like, listen, you're gonna see Akbar and Thrawn square off, Admiral v Admiral, in you would hope a capital ship to capital ship battle in space. So while that's going on, maybe Ezra's down here with Hera or you know, other New Republic people trying to figure something out, trying to disable parts of Thrawn's defenses. Who knows? Or maybe they're here trying to find out information on how to get back to Peridea, or how to get Ahsoka and Sabine back. You know what I mean? We still got to... You can't forget that Ahsoka and Sabine are essentially trapped for good in a brand new galaxy on Peridea with Balin and Shin Hati, and obviously some funky shit with the Mortis gods. You know what I mean? So I'm pumped. I know a lot of you are kind of holding your breath that Ahsoka Season 2 is going to drop this year. I think it's not even a remote possibility at this point in time. You know, maybe we'll get some more information around Star Wars Day or over the summer during D23, but there's not a celebration this year, so they probably don't have a lot of big news to announce. And if you believe in I think Disney's roadmap came out last December, there is nothing on it about Ahsoka. So, remaining in this year, we got the Maul comic coming up in March. We've got the Maul series kicking off in April, but it will be wrapped by the first week of May. And then after that, we're going to have Mando and Grogu on 5/22. And then I think the only other thing we are going to get is going to be the Visions spinoff. And I can't believe I can't remember what the hell it's called. Anybody? What's the Visions short with Kara in it? What is it called? It's the best one. We just got a new episode in Visions Volume 3. Yeah, the Ninth Jedi. Thank you, Kramer. See, this is where I need young Nick here, because sometimes my gray matter is just a little too old in gray these days, and I'm having problems with recall. So thank you to my co-pilots there, League and Kramer, helping a brother out. All right, so there you go. There's your Ahsoka leak. Let's go ahead and see what we got with Rogue Squadron. And this is one where some of you are probably like, what the hell are you even talking about? Are you talking about the old video games or what? But no. If you remember, way back in 2020, almost 6 years ago at this point in time, Patty Jenkins, Kathleen Kennedy rolled out. Hell, they even did almost like not a teaser trailer, but they were on a runway, and Patty was dressed in an orange jumpsuit like a rebel pilot, and they're talking about, hell yeah, my dad was a fighter pilot. This is why I want to make this movie. So that's what we're talking about. There was supposed to be a Rogue Squadron film. It was announced way back in 2020. So obviously, if things were going well and all the creatives were lined up, it would have already been out by now. But something happened here. I don't know if Kathleen pulled the plug or if Patty was like, yo, I'm backing away. But it's just been kind of in limbo now for 6 years. It's kind of in the same category as Rian Johnson's trilogy that's probably never going to happen. The Rey movie that, again, they rolled out on Star Wars Celebration. Like, hey, we're bringing out Rey. We're bringing out the director. We're going to do a Rey movie. We're going to do a Dawn of the Jedi movie. We're going to do a Mandoverse crossover movie. And now all three of those films are more than likely in jeopardy, up in the air, may not get developed. Most definitely, they'll be dependent on the success of Mando and Grogu, and then 2027 Star Wars film, Starfighter. So maybe if Grogu knocks out of the park and it makes close to a bill, these other projects might get a little more heat. But if Mando and Grogu comes out and it makes only like $500-600 million, I know that sounds like a lot, but they spend a lot on these movies. We could see another pause after Starfighter in terms of Star Wars live action films. So let's hope for the best. I do want Star Wars back in the theaters. I know Star Wars TV has been fun. I've enjoyed most of it, but there's just something different about going to a theater and, seeing the Lucasfilm pop up, and then, maybe you'll get the music, maybe you'll get an opening crawl. It just hits, you know what I mean? Like there really isn't a much better experience in theaters than a Star Wars movie, sci-fi in general, if you know what I mean. So anyways, like I said, we do have an update on Rogue Squadron, although I I don't think it really means much. I don't want to like tickle your tits here or your taint and tease you and be like, oh yeah, it's going to happen. But one of the writers, or the main writer, Matthew Robinson, kind of opened up about it and talked a little bit about it and shed some light on it. And it does sound like they had a fully finished script. They're ready to rock. They've just been waiting on Lucasfilm. All right, so here we go. What did Matthew Robinson have to say here? He's apparently he is the screenwriter for, I think this movie's coming out this week, from Gore Verbinski. Good luck, have fun, don't die, which I might go check out tomorrow night, Thursday, if you're watching the recorded version here. But he went and talked to Polygon here about they're probably talking about good luck, have fun, don't die. And they brought up Rogue Squadron, which, like I said, he wrote alongside Patty Jenkins. So Robinson offers up a kind of as they say, an unvarnished answer about the status and concept of his script. So here's what he had to say about the Rogue Squadron script. I had a great time writing it. Patty Jenkins is one of my favorite artists in the world. I think she's absolutely brilliant. We had a great time working together. I don't currently know what Lucasfilm wants to do with it. They're in a pretty big state of flux at the moment after Kathleen Kennedy leaving, and who knows what the future holds for them theatrically. So right there, he's saying like, hey, it was fun. We were kicking ass, taking names. We got the script is done. Like, we wrote it. The story's out there. Lucasfilm has it. He just doesn't know what they want to do with it, and he's right. I mean, he's not kidding when he says that Lucasfilm's future in regards to theatrical releases is very, very cloudy. I just kind of went over why that is the case. I mean, at this point in time, if we count Ryan's trilogy, don't forget the Game of Thrones guys were also supposed to do a trilogy, I believe, so there's 6 movies. You had all a Star Wars Stories movies canceled after Solo, so you're going to get a Kenobi and a Boba Fett one there, and possibly even a Jabba the Hutt one, so that's 3. So now we're at 9 movies that never saw the light of day. And then you got Rogue Squadron, that takes us to 10. And then, like I say, the Rey, Dawn of the Jedi, and the Filoni crossover. So we're around 13 films that are just gone in limbo. No one knows what the hell's happening. Like I said, I think it's going to depend on the type of cashola that Mando and Grogu can pull in. So he goes on and says, again, talking about working on this project and why it was important to him as a longtime Star Wars fan. He says, it was a great thrill to write that, and especially to work with Patty, who made it a very personal story. It was very much a movie about fighter pilots. Her father was a fighter pilot. It was very personal to her, and we were trying to tell a really great personal story about fighter pilots and Rogue Squadron pilots in the Star Wars universe. I think we did a great job with it, and I really hope one day we get to see a version of that. Yeah, me too. I mean, who would not want to see a movie about Rogue Squadron or a movie about Rebel starfighter pilots? I know we're getting a movie called Starfighter, but I don't think it's going to be even remotely close to what Patty and Matt were working on in Rogue Squadron. I think Rogue Squadron truly was probably going to be set around the OT era, maybe a little after, and following the squadron, dealing with the daily lives of these pilots and what it takes to get into a cockpit of an X-Wing and risk your life for the ones you love. So I think Top Gun in space. Who would not want that? So yeah, I hope it does see the light of day at some point in time, but I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't want to blame this on any one person at Lucasfilm, because listen, Kathy Kennedy in the end wasn't the end all be all. She still had to report to Bob Iger, who we have learned was the one that was directly responsible for killing the Ben Solo prequel sequel project. So he very much could have been a driving force in a lot of these other films not happening, because he is the money guy. So let me see what's going on in the chat here. We got League saying, as I stated before, Lucasfilm has got to stop making announcements to projects that never see the light of day. Yeah, League, you're 100% right. And I think that's also going to be one of the problems for these films that were announced and essentially forgotten, is that there's almost a stink on them now. You know, even if they came out and they're fantastic, some fans would be like, dude, that thing was announced 10 years ago. Can it really be that good? Should I really go spend money and see it in theaters? So I do. I mean, hopefully Dave Filoni, you know, he's kind of taken over with, I forget the other lady that's going to fill the role of Kathleen Kennedy leaving. But let's hope they're a little more cautious on the fanfare and the hype behind movie reveals or even TV show reveals. You know, unless this thing is already in the can, the budget's been approved, let's just not talk about this stuff anymore. So, you know, the article kind of just goes on talking about how Robinson thinks that, you know, Lucasfilm is doing fine on TV, which is it? I mean, Mando season 4 more than likely isn't going to see the light of day, even though Favreau's got the full season written. I really think everything depends on the Mandalorian in Grogu. If that thing is able to kind of rekindle parts of the fandom that aren't us goofballs, you know, fanboys and fangirls, then you probably are going to start seeing more money flowing, more green lights coming around. Yeah, Kingdom of Weird, you're not lying. That's what I'm saying. We want these things just kind of like they did with Starfighter. I mean, they announced Starfighter, and I think 2 or 3 months later, they had boots on the ground filming the thing. It's already wrapped filming. They're in post. So you know that movie's going to be hitting in 2027. So, like I said, if you want to start seeing more Star Wars movies, you got to go and support Mandalorian and Grogu, even if you hear it sucks, which I doubt that's going to happen. So get out there, talk with your money. I mean, these days, depending on where you live, I'm telling you right now, I don't know if votes are going to matter anymore, but what will always matter the most in a capitalistic country is cash. If you withhold your funds, big business, corporations, the capitalism machine will bend the knee. Okay? Stick that in your pipe and smoke it. All right, so there's your newsy type of stuff. Let's go ahead and get into the fun one here. Like I said, this is kind of an old article coming from Screen Rant. These days, it's kind of hard to figure out what the hell to talk about on a Star Wars show when there's really, as Kingdom of Weird has pointed out, there's really not a lot of stuff in production anymore. So you just kind of got to spitball, make some things up, and hope that people might be interested in it. So this week, I was feeling a little lazy, didn't really feel like thinking on my own. Give me a break, you know what I mean? Give me a break. But I found I had this saved in kind of my, hey, Star Wars special segments for a rainy day file. But Screen Rant had this article from a few years back, the 10 characters with the most screen time so far. And luckily, there have not been any more Star Wars movies since 2020. So this list still holds truth. So let's start with it. We're going to go through this. We're going to recount the 10 characters with the most screen time. Like I said, if you're in the live stream chat, start getting in there and leaving your predictions for what 10 characters you think are on the list. You don't have to necessarily say where they're going to fall. If you just want to start throwing out some character names, that will work too. Yeah, King of the Weird asked me to go review some of the AI Star Wars. I've actually been checking out some of the stuff because I'm on a YouTube Premium promo right now, which is fantastic, and I may keep it. YouTube with no ads is fantastic. It really is, and I know people are mad at us because we monetize, but we got to try to make $10 a month or something, you know what I mean? So Kingdom, I have been looking at some of these AI projects, and I think in our Discord, Tones just shared one called Duel of the Fates, which is kind of based on Colin Trevorrow's treatment for Star Wars Episode 9. It's not half bad. I mean, some of them are a little wonky, but I have seen some channels pop up that are just absolutely racking in the subs, making AI Star Wars shorts. And it is. Like, listen, I know there's a lot of people that might listen to the show, especially in the toy photography community, that are like hell-bent on, you know, AI is terrible. And listen, there are some aspects of it that I do not like. I don't like the resource drain, the power grid drain, stuff like that. But it is kind of amazing tech. I mean, there's a model that dropped this week. I think it's called Seed Dance, coming out of China. And holy shit, you should see what people are producing in just one prompt. It's insane, and that's what a lot of these channels that Kingdom of Weird's talking about use. And again, you know, some of the acting's wonky, some of the pacing's wonky, but I forget the name of the channel. It's something like Star Wars Untold, or they do a lot of like 8 to 10 minute, like, hey, this is Count Dooku going to Qui-Gon's grave, or this is what it was like for Anakin right after he got put into the Vader suit. So I think they're interesting. Like I'm kind of with Kingdom of Weird. Late at night, not much on. It's not worth browsing through YouTube and checking out some of these fan created Star Wars projects with AI. And yeah, Kingdom of Weird, you're 100% correct. I know George has kind of come out and supported Guillermo, like, hey, AI is not art, but George is also the one that wanted to get rid of film. Like, there are still people like Christopher Nolan that will only shoot in film, and George 20 years prior is like, no, you guys are dumb. You gotta do digital. So I do believe, like Kingdom, that Lucas would have used AI in some capacity if he was still making films. That's just who he is. He always embraced new technology, and sometimes, especially in the late 70s and 80s, he was forcing ILM to create technology to bring his visions to life. So I think the maker would definitely be down with the AI. All right, League's got some guesses in here before we get into the list of the 10 characters with the most screen time in Star Wars movie history. League saying most screen time, I would say Anakin, Vader, a touch of Ahsoka, and finally with a touch of the droid C-3PO and R2. All right, we'll see, League. We will see. So let's go ahead and get started here so I'm not here all night. It does seem the fans like shorter shows, so our views have picked up, which is odd, especially on the pre-recorded shows. We've been getting somewhere around 400-600 views on YouTube, then another few hundred on podcasts. So we love you people. We appreciate any of you diehards still sticking with the SWTS, even during these doldrums of Star Wars actual news. I do miss the days when every Wednesday or every show week, I know we could just sit here and riff on rumors, leaks for projects, or just news. That's just not the case. Star Wars news has been pretty dried up for a couple years now. All right, so here we go. Starting at number 10. Looks like League is on to something here. It's none other than Goldenrod. So C-3PO comes in at number 10 on this list in terms of the most screen time in Star Wars movie history. So you got to keep that in mind, League. Movie history. I don't think your girl in orange is in any movies yet, so she might not be on the list. But C-3PO, we know he is in all 9 major films. And I believe he was also in Rogue One, right? Very briefly. So this dude has been everywhere. I mean, him and his little gay partner R2 have been in all of the major saga movies as well as the Rogue One spinoff. So it makes sense that C-3PO clocks in at 71 minutes and 45 seconds of screen time. But his little companion does not make the list. I'll just go ahead and spoil that right now. And it makes sense. Like, if you think about it, R2, he's usually off doing missions. He just gets little quick hits. Where C-3PO, because he's a gabby motherfucker, he's typically used more in dialogue scenes. So C-3PO at number 10, 71 minutes, 45 seconds. Coming in at number 9, it's everyone's favorite MILF, Padme Amidala. And it's wild to think because, she was only in the first 3 films, but she still clocked 72 minutes of screen time. So a lot of that clearly coming from Phantom Menace and then Attack of the Clones. Because if you think about it, in Revenge of the Sith, she does kind of get sidelined. She becomes almost a whole new character when she's carrying the twins. But Padme clocking in right under C-3PO, taking the 9th spot in terms of the most screen time in Star Wars movie history. And I don't think many people out there, especially you males or you females that like girls, are upset that Padme had a large enough amount of screen time that she made the top 10 list. And it is like League's saying, it is kind of crazy to think because she was only in 3 movies, and I would say 2.5 is probably closer. Okay, so coming in at number 8, who could it be? Who is on that screen? Who do we like watching? And this was another one that kind of surprised me. Finn, FN2187, coming in at number 8. Finn had more screen time than Padme, more screen time than R2D2. They want a Wanga, you know what I mean? So Finn clocks in at 74 minutes, which, you know, again, it kind of lines up, especially TFA. He was a main character on screen almost in every single scene because he interacted both with Rey, the First Order, and obviously Poe and the Resistance. You know, then there's TLJ where, again, we can argue that his time wasn't well spent. He was kind of sent off on a side mission and almost forgot about. But he still, you know, was in a lot of scenes with Rose, and he had that great moment at the end where, you know, he's going to sacrifice himself. So that makes sense. And then again in Tross, they got the gang all back together, so he was in a lot of that movie too. So Finn, the first sequel trilogy character, cracking the list, coming in at number 8. All right, moving on down. Who is number 7 on this list? Again, if you just tuned in, we're breaking down the top 10 Star Wars characters in terms of their screen time in the films. And look at that. It's Padme's little lady, her daughter. They never really got to meet, even though Leia thinks she met her. You know, a little bit of a retcon there, George. But yeah, Leia Organa clocking in at 77:30. So if you think about it, she technically gets like a second at the end of Revenge of the Sith when she gets literally by that creepy robot scooped out of her mom's, you know, hoo-ha with a shovel. So you know, we'll give her a couple seconds there. But then she had a lot of screen time in New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and of course Return of the Jedi. But she also gets a bump from the sequel trilogy. And, you know, honestly, R.I.P. Carrie, but if Carrie did not die, Leia would probably be even lower on this list, like closer towards the top 5, because she was supposed to be the main legend or legacy character, legacy character in Star Wars Episode 9. But sadly, she passed. Episode 9 got all fucked up. Colin quit, and then JJ had to come back, and then they were writing for fan service, and they had to somehow still deal with Leia because she was still alive and didn't die on the bridge in TLJ. So we got what we got. We got kind of, you know, faux Leia in Tross, but, you know, she's still high up on this list. Number 7, 77:30, total screen time for Leia Organa, a.k.a. the princess, a.k.a. the general, a.k.a. the Jedi. All right, who is next? What are we on? I think we're on 6. I can't count, so help me out here, people. I am kind of stupid. But look at that. Shouldn't surprise anyone. Another one of the mains from the OT. The core 4, if you will. But it's Chewbacca. Good old Chewbacca, the Bacca, Chewie, the walking carpet, whatever you want to call him. Friend of a nerf herder. Chewie clocks in at 79 minutes, 45 seconds. And he's another one. I mean, he's been around. He's been around. I mean, he's in the OT. He's in the prequel a little bit, Revenge of the Sith. He's in the sequel trilogy, I believe. Yeah, all 3 movies. So it should be no surprise that Bacca is clocking in at, again, I lost count, I think 6 at this point in time, on the list of the top 10 Star Wars characters in terms of movie screen time. So go ahead and give out a Wookiee roar. I'm not very good at it, so I'll just go. See, I told you, I'm no good. I need Dustin Henderson from Stranger Things to do his little Wookiee roar, whatever the hell noise he used to make in the early seasons of that show. All right, let me get my count figured out again because that makes it more fun. So we'll do a little recap just in case people weren't paying attention. We got C-3PO at 10, 71 minutes and change. Padme at 9, 72 minutes. Finn at 8, 74 minutes. Leia at 7, 77.30. Chewbacca, I was right. Chewbacca at 6, 79.45. All right, so we're going to start whittling down the list. We're now getting into the top 5, if you will. Yeah, League, we don't kind of think about Chewie, but he's always in the background. I mean, if Han's around, Luke, Leia, if they're on the Falcon, Chewie's probably going to be there. He's never going to have long lines or a monologue, but he's always going to be in frame, which counts. So here we go. We're cracking into the top 5 in terms of Star Wars characters and their screen time in the films. Who's coming in at number 5? Hey now, look at that. It's Mr. Hello there. Obi-Wan Kenobi clocking in at a massive 113 and 15 seconds. So this dude is absolutely blowing away the people at 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Obi-Wan, a main character throughout the prequels, and then a main in the original trilogy. And I guess you can't really count his time in the sequel trilogy because he just provides his voice. So I don't know if they factor that into their calculations here. But Obi-Wan, Mr. Hello there, the guy with the blue lightsaber, the guy that likes pointing the peace symbol at people before he cuts them in half, he comes in at number 5, clocking a massive 113 minutes and 15 seconds. So pretty impressive. This next one here, I guess it surprises me a little bit. Actually surprises me a lot because Rey at number 4, and she's clocking in at 129 minutes. That's a lot of time. That is a lot of time for a character that's only in 3 films. And I guess it makes sense. I mean, she was the main of the sequel trilogy, so she gets top billing on the posters and the credits. But when you think about it, man, she was on screen for 129 minutes, which is a lot. And listen, I'm a Rey fan. I know a lot of people hate her, think she's a Mary Sue, but really if you look at her journey, it isn't much different from Luke's. It's not like we saw Luke training for months on end, years on end. He kind of the same thing he did with Yoda. He shows up for a few days and pieces out, just like she shows up for a few days with Luke and pieces out. She reads some books and here we go. But Rey definitely coming in at 129 minutes, cracking the top 5 at the number 4 spot. Okay, next up, coming in at number 3. All right, here we go. We got one of the OGs, one of the Fab Four, Luke Skywalker, with 133 minutes across his film time, screen time. So, clearly it makes sense. He was the Rey of the OT, and then he got a bump in the sequel trilogy. I mean, we spent a ton of time with Luke in A New Hope, a ton of time just with Luke in Empire, and the same. Luke is always kind of on his own for a large portion of the OT, and then, clearly he teams up with his sister and his homie and his walking carpet. But Luke being up here at number 3 makes sense. I mean, he was, just like Rey was the main for the sequels, Luke was the main for the OT. As much as you want to be like, no, it was Han, Luke, and Leia. No, I mean, it was Luke, really. And in the end, if you really want to know what these movies were about, at least the first 6, it was about Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. Just go look it up. That's what the maker said. I'm not pulling stuff out of my balloon knot. All right there. So Luke coming in at number 3, 133 minutes. Who are the top 2? Who could be at number 2? I don't know, because I forgot. I used to know. I don't know anymore. Don't do drugs and alcohol, my friends. All right, so number 2 is... Look at that. It's his buddy. It's the guy that gets murdered by his own son for being a deadbeat dad. That's right, people. Han Solo clocking in at 138.30. And you're probably saying, like, how the hell did that happen? He's in the same movies as Luke and Leia, and then in the sequel trilogy, he gets killed early on. Well, you remember he comes back at the end of Tross in a kind of a vision with Kylo or Ben Solo at that point in time. But some of you may be forgetting This mofo had his own standalone movie. Solo, a Star Wars story. We were supposed to have Kenobi, a Star Wars story, and then maybe he would have been higher up. Boba Fett, a Star Wars story. Jabba the Hutt, a Star Wars story. But alas, those were all canceled after Han Solo's solo film. But that's why he's up here. I mean, that's why he's at number 2. Solo, literally a movie about him. That's going to give him a bump in screen time. So we got good old Han in the picture. It's a sad one. It's the one of him getting slain by his son. Still a great moment in TFA, and I still contend TFA is a pretty damn good Star Wars movie, even if it was retread of A New Hope. But we got Han clocking in at 1:38:30, some beefy time there. So, here we go, people. Who do you think is number 1 on the list? Some people may have already guessed in the live stream chat. It shouldn't be hard to figure out at this point in time. I might have just spoiled it by talking about how the original 6 movies, the OT and the prequels, are all about the story of Anakin Skywalker. So yes, of course, Anakin / Darth Vader clocks in at 164 minutes and 30 seconds, which makes complete sense, okay? I mean, the prequel trilogy was about his rise and fall. The OT was about his reign of terror. And then I guess his helmet shows up in the sequel trilogy. Not that that really counts, but I mean, it should be a no-brainer that Anakin Skywalker / alter ego Darth Vader comes in at number 1 in regards to the top 10 characters in terms of movie screen time in the Star Wars saga. So just to recount, at number 1, we had Anakin with the most screen time, followed by Han Solo, then Luke Skywalker, then Rey, then Obi-Wan Kenobi, then Chewbacca, then Leia, then Finn, then Padme, then C-3PO. So, it's an interesting little topic there. I know it's kind of a throwaway, but yeah, you got some sequel trilogy characters in here, some prequel trilogy characters in here, and then the OT. And they really are. I mean, when we talk about these 10 characters are Star Wars. They are. They are the Skywalker saga. They are why Lucasfilm and Disney can't figure out how to make movies that don't revolve around the Skywalker saga, because these characters are so damn important to fans, and some of them have been around for almost 50 years at this point in time. So, the list shouldn't surprise anyone, but sometimes it is wild to see, like, even characters like Finn have cracked this list, and hell, like I said, Rey all the way down at number 4. So, fun little topic. We tend to do these when there's not much Star Wars news or rumors to talk about. But we're not done yet. If you are new here, we always end an episode of the SWTS with a fan segment. It's been slightly trimmed these past 2 weeks because Question of the Week has just been falling flat, not getting a lot of interaction. And no, we are not shaming you fans. Shame, shame, shame. We're shaming our AI overlords and the algorithms because listen, no one sees our content. Ever since we had our Instagram account whacked when we were around 20,000 users, we've never been able to rebound, and it is what it is. We're just a couple old guys over here talking about some fake sci-fi shit. So I get it. Hey there, Curtis Gray. Thanks for chiming in there saying, interesting list. Never would have guessed. All right, well, thanks for tuning in. But like I said, let's go ahead and start to bring this episode to a close. We're going to enter into the fan segment with the top 5 Star Wars fan artist features of the week. The way to get mixed up in this one is solely through Instagram. Make sure if you post anything Star Wars art related that you use hashtag Star Wars Time Show. But more importantly, do that add tag feature and tag at StarWarsTime.show. That is where we pull the top 5 candidates from. So if you want to be included, make sure you're doing all that stuff on Instagram. All right, so let's go ahead and get switched over and introduce our first top 5 of the week. Let me make sure my screens are jiving. Man, I can smell dinner upstairs, and it smells really good. It's making me hungry. Good thing we are almost done here. All right, so here we go. First up in this week's top 5 fan artist features from the SWTS is a fantastic portrait shot by longtime fan Optimus Crime over on the IG. Look at that beautiful Dathomirian sun. I mean, you've got to love Maul. You know, Maul is way high up on my list. Easily top 5 character for me. He makes for a great collectible. I even have a Maul skull over here. I don't know if anyone has ever seen it. I don't feel like picking it up to show it off right now. But I've got multiple Maul Hot Toys. I'm super excited for Maul Shadow Lord coming up in April. So I think Optimus just did a bang-up job on this portrait. I tend to be a fan of toy photography portraits because that's kind of what I do these days. I used to be big in the toy photography community in terms of posting daily, sometimes multiple times a day. I would shoot Funko Pops, you know, Black Series figures like my man Neil right here. But anymore, I just get my little Star Wars Barbies out and we do portraits. So Optimus Prime, fantastic portrait here of Maul. It's TPM Maul too, OG Maul. He's got a great expression. Great eyeball placement, you know, a little scowl. At last we will have revenge. Blah, blah, blah. So go give Optimus.crime a follow on Instagram. Up next, we got a kick-ass action scene here from _photo junkie on Instagram. And if you're not watching the live stream, let me do my best to describe it to you. But like I said, it's a very dynamic looking action shot. You got old school Boba Fett, you know, the Boba from the OT days, not new acid wash Boba. But he's karate kicking a stormtrooper, and it just looks fantastic. I mean, he's wrapping the trooper right up against his bucket. Boba has fantastic form, and if you've ever played with toys, tried to pose toys, film toys, shoot toys, you know they're not the best subjects. So the fact that Photo Junkie got such a great looking dynamic pose is pretty impressive. I don't know if there's any behind the scenes here. Yeah, there you go. Check that out. That's how it's done. Nice use of a figure stand, standing them up there. Great work from Photo Junkie over on Instagram. Just really awesome, action-oriented Boba Fett shot. So make sure to give them a follow if you have not done so already. All right, next up on this week's Top 5 Star Wars Fan Artists, we have a great one, a scene recreation with you, Will. Don't do it, Anakin! I have the high ground! Yep, that's right. We've got a high ground recreation, and it is fantastic. This one comes from Cybers_ToyPix over on Instagram. And it's just a great recreation using the new Obi-Wan and Anakin or Lord Vader Black Series figures. You got Anakin on the what an idiot. You got Kenobi on the high ground looking down at Anakin, and like I said, you can just hear the conversation playing out. You were my brother! You were meant to destroy the Sith, not join them! So it's just great. And if we go look at the behind the scenes, you can see a lot of this is practical. You know, they added in some digital effects in post, but you can see Obi-Wan is actually standing on a mound of rubble. You got Anakin on there on his little, lava floating platform. And then Cybers used some digital wizardry to, make it look like they were on Mustafar. So I think this is a fantastic shot. We've been seeing a lot of these Mustafar recreations these days. So really digging this one from Cybers_ToyPix over on Instagram. Up next, this is a multi-time top 5 award recipient. That's right, JZHZ6669 over on Instagram with another banger. I always love Jay-Z's work. I think it's fantastic. I know they do a lot of compositing type of work, which if you're not familiar, it's like you essentially you'll shoot your subject and then you composite into a digital scene. So what we see here from JZHC, we got kind of a K2SO figure, a security droid with a probe droid. It looks like they're on Mandalore during the Night of 1,000 Tears. And it's just, again, it's poster level quality. It's just such a good looking shot. It complements one they did a few months back where we had kind of a black armored scout trooper. and he had an AT-AT behind him, and again, probe droids flanking. It's just fantastic stuff. Here's some close-ups. Just look how smooth everything is blended into the background. Just awesome work here from JZHZ6669, a master of 1/6 scale toy photography. So check them out over on Instagram. Oh, look at that. Who's popped in here? Cole Cowan. Good to see you, buddy. Tuning in from Scotland. Unfortunately, we're almost at the end of the show. I wish we could go longer. I always love when Cole's up in here. A great Scotsman, if you will. I just want to hear Cole talk, because sometimes listening to the Scottish accent for us Americans, it's very difficult to pick up on what they're saying, and it's almost like they've got their own vernacular. But it is fantastic. I love some of those very thick UK accents that you all sport over there. So good to see you, Cole. It's been a while. Always glad to have you in the live stream chat. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this week's top 5 with our last award winner. And look at that. What do you know? I guess Maul was on my mind this week, but it's another Maul shot. And this one comes from Coleccionista de Plastico. And this one is I just love the way it looks. I mean, this is all practical, by the way, but you got Maul, and he's like reflecting off a piece of glass, and there's a bit of a lens flare. He's got a wide open mouth, his eyes are posed perfectly. I don't know. I just think it's a really cool looking Maul portrait, and I'm a huge fan of Coleccionista. They just have a style that I really appreciate. It's very simplistic, and don't take that as like a negative, because sometimes less is more in photography, especially toy photography. So I love checking out their setup. It's almost always just on a blank backdrop with a ring light, and then you got your key lighting and to light the figure. But it's just a great looking Maul portrait. So yes, I know we already had one Maul portrait this week, but we're giving another honoree, another nod to a Maul shot from Coleccionista de Plastico over on Instagram. All right, people. I'm actually proud of myself. When I'm here alone, I usually get diarrhea of the mouth, believe it or not. I may talk a lot for a living. I am a lecturer, so sometimes just pushing a button and saying go works for me. And luckily today, it didn't work too well, so I didn't go, into 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It looks like we're going to come right in under an hour and a half, which I can dig. So hopefully you enjoyed this week's episode, this live version of the Star Wars Time Show. If you just tuned in and you want to watch the replay, we open with some Ask Me Anything questions. I then touch on an Ahsoka S2 set pick leak. We had an update on Rogue Squadron from one of its screenwriters, and then we broke down the top 10 characters in terms of their screen time in Star Wars films. So make sure to check out the episode. If you're just catching us at the end, the replay will be available as soon as I say goodbye, and then it'll hit podcast platforms sometime on Thursdays each week. All right, my friends, good seeing everyone. Cole, League, Curtis, it was nice to have you join in with the chat there. Kingdom of Weird, good to hear from you again. Super Scoundrel, all the early ones in here. We speak your name. You know what to do. You know what to do. Keep spreading the good word, please. We need as much help as possible from meatbags, and I'm calling you meatbags lovingly. Okay. The AI takeover is coming at us fast and furiously. So anytime you all can help juice our content by leaving comments, sharing, sending it to a friend, sending it to your enemy, we appreciate you. It definitely helps get the word out about us two old assholes that are still doing this. What is this? This is episode 388. 388. What other sickos would do this for this long with this small of a following? That just goes to show you that there truly is always time for Star Wars time, and I truly have mental problems. All right, my friends, you know what to do. you know what to say. Just let them know. If they listen to the Star Wars Time Show, the Force will be with them. Always.